Hi, welcome to ToddFun.com, and at ToddFun and almost Christmas we have to review some LED programmable lights. These are from LumaPlay. LumenPlay? There's a QR code there if you want to stop the video and take a snap. I'll put a link to them in the show notes too. I bought these last year to put on my Christmas tree, but I bought them after Christmas. One of my viewers said, hey, this sounds like something like your GE35s that I hacked last year to make them controllable with an Arduino. He said this Bluetooth control from your phone should do the same and not be so much work. So after Christmas they were on sale quite a bit less, so I bought the 12 set plus controller and a 12 light extension. That means these go together and make 24. Should be enough to go around the tree a couple times. And they should be programmable via Bluetooth. That app will either be your phone, or you could even use your computer. So we'll look at the box, get a good understanding of what the features are. I will have a link in the show notes and at ToddFun to go to my Amazon store. I'm not saying I recommend them yet because the reviews don't seem that great, but we'll see what they can do and we'll see what they do look like, and we'll see if the app for these are better this year, because the reviews I saw on Amazon, a lot of people said the Android app didn't work very well at all, but yet the iPhone did. So I have an iPhone, so we'll definitely see how they work with the iPhone. So let's go to the bench, look at them, kind of give them a once over, unbox them, test to see how they kind of do, and hopefully see them on the tree. Well, I'll spare you the unboxing, other than maybe to show you the box. It really doesn't. The app really doesn't look like this anymore, so it's kind of doesn't make sense to really show it. But there's like 16 million colors you can pick from, different themes you can pick from. Doesn't exactly look nice like this. It just looks different now. Yes, you can program different types of lights and then different types of patterns and save it with a name. That's a pretty good feature. You can daisy chain these together, so you can get up to 500 lights, which comes out to about 40 strands of 12 lights each. Though I don't think the amperage works out properly. I think if what they're saying on the stickers is right, then they've got their amperage wrong. But so I would say it's closer to maybe 20 strands if you stick with their rated amps. Well, you can, when you make a scene and you save a scene, you can share a scene. One of my concerns is when you shut it down and boot it back up again, will it go back to one of your saved scenes? It also goes with music, so if you pick a song and play it, then it'll sort of strobe to the music, which is kind of a nice feature. That's not much else for it than that. You get the app. The app isn't, I'm really not too pleased with the app. It's not very responsive. And the first time you plug this thing in, this is the controller part right here, and then after here, this other box, and these are the lights, and you can have, like I say, probably up to 20 of these, so 12 times 20 would be the max, but that's an awful lot of lights. Though they say 500 lights, and I don't get that. This is the Bluetooth one. This doesn't have Bluetooth. It actually disconnects right here. It unscrews, and it has a good seal in there. So that's nice. They have a fuse in it, so it comes with spare fuses. So if you just pop that little screen forward, you'll see there's 2 fuses. So in there for 3 amps, and there's your spare fuses. And they're rated nice, and they're really made quite well. They're sealed very nice. The wires are very nice. When you first try and connect to it with the app, it wants to update it. Okay, well there's a problem because it didn't update. It actually failed the firmware update of what's in this thing over Bluetooth. And I contacted the company. They said they'd send me another one but they wanted me to try some things. I tried those things. They didn't work. In frustration, I sort of set my phone on it because it just wasn't working. And all of a sudden it went bing, and it started updating firmware. I'm like, really? I have to set my phone right on top of that thing? And it just automatically said, oh, I see it now. Great. And then the firmware did update, and it reprogrammed it, and it seems to be working now. But that tells you right there, wow, you're at the mercy of whether the company can keep this app working or not. Because if the app quits working, you don't have lights. And if your OS doesn't support the app, you don't have lights. And if you're updating the firmware and the firmware bricks, you don't have lights. So there are so many ways for this. This is about $120 worth of lights with the extension I bought. So, you know, one little problem with that software chain, and you don't have lights. But like I say, they did said they'd send me another one. They said they'd overnight me one, actually, almost like 2-day shipping or something. And that'd have been nice of them to do that. So you got to admit their tech support, their help line was quite good. Go ahead and well, let's just talk about the lights real quick. They're C9s, and it looks like there's 6 wires coming out of here. No, there's 5. There's 5 wires coming out of here. There's 2 go in and out of every of these C9 bulbs. They do come apart. And so I'm pretty sure water can get in there. So there's a little bit of an issue there. These don't unplug, but it is an RGB light. And then they're programmable, so there must be a little clever way of programming each light, because when you boot up the app, it says how many lights do you got in your chain, and then I suppose it knows how to address them. But there's so many wires because I think 2 are just power, actual AC power. I think there's AC power coming in, AC just power mains coming out a couple, and then there's going to be the communication lines for these on the lower voltage for the bulbs, and then another line that goes all the way down to the very end and communicates to the next chain. It's going to have power. It's going to have, you know, mains power and then ground and data, so that it can communicate to the next brick in the next data change, telling it, hey, what are we doing? You know, that way you can actually easily plug these guys together and not have to fuss with syncing them. So you get four wires, and there's a good O-ring in all these, and so they're going to seal up really good. If you're not using them, they won't get water in there, and if you chain them together, they won't get water. So that's nice. The last one has 5 wires going into it, and that's probably just because the way it wants to transmit the data and ground and then mains power to the next chain, and that way each one is going to have its own brick. It's going to have its own little power converter in there, its own little data communication to communicate downstream and upstream, and then control its lights. So if you say you have 12 lights, it's going to do 12. If you say 24, it's going to say, well, I got the 24. It's going to shift into this thing saying, hey, 25, do this, and this will say, well, I must be 25, and off it goes. You know, so that's all clever. Let's plug them in and look at the app. So let's connect the lights and show how the app works and how they look. So let's start off with they look off right now, but actually they're not. They're drawing 160 milliamps, and that's about 3 watts. So it's basically a watt and a half for each one of these bricks that you're going to have in your chain. So there's going to be the Wi-Fi or the Bluetooth one, and then any one of these, you're going to get about 1.5 watts. So you can just do the math. And that's there whether they're on or off. Right now they're turned off with the app, but the current draw is exactly the same. Look at the power factor, by the way, 14. Wow. Okay. And so yeah, when they turn on, you're going to see. In fact, here's the deal right now. I told them to be off, but if you lose power, like I got a switch right here, and then if I turn power back on, they come on. Meaning, no matter what you do with your app, if you have a power bump, these lights are coming on to whatever you last programmed them in. So let's take a peek at the app. It looks like this gecko, and he's on a globe. Comes up, it says you want to connect, and we'll say sure. And by the way, this is what it looks like, the default screen. And if you notice, well, it's kind of hard to see now because of the lighting, but right there, you can see it's still drawing 160 milliamps. So there's really no point in programmably turning these off, because you're paying for the electricity whether you're getting that last little trickle of current in these LEDs or not. Most all the power draw is going to be these little boxes and what little bit bleeds through all these. So yeah, I mean, don't bother turning them off. You can put them on a timer, and like a timer box, and have them turn on and off. That will save power, but then
but then you're not going to get to use the timer function here, because you'll notice here there's a little clock in the app. When it first comes up though, you're going to want to click the pencil and you want to tell it how many lights you have. Like I got 12. You want to make sure you tell it how many in your string so that it can programmably control them. When you say done, you're basically up and ready to go. You can turn them all off. This is the mode I had them in when we just started, and like I say, the power draw is the same. You're not saving no money. Turn them back on, and this is the timer. Like I was playing around with the timing. Yes, if you program this thing, provided you don't turn it off, provided you don't have a timer on it or you don't have a power bump in your, if you set the timer and then say done, it will program this Bluetooth box to that. It must have a clock in there, and it must be maintaining a fairly accurate clock, and it will turn itself on and off at the designated time that you set here. And it will, of course, every time you connect to the lights, it's going to refresh that time and that timer, on-off timer. But if at any time, even though you have this thing set to turn on and off, a certain time, if you ever have a bump in power, if you ever get a bump in power, it doesn't matter what you set here. This thing is, the timing feature is removed. The lights immediately come on, and this timer that you had saved, it doesn't remember that. It doesn't like come up and go, hey, I'm supposed to be off right now, and turns itself off. I guess that's kind of a feature in that if you plugged them in and didn't know they were set on some sort of a timer, they would be black and you would think they were broken. And so maybe it's just a feature. I don't know. But, knowing that, no big deal if you got them hooked up on a Christmas tree. You can use this if you know you're always going to have power. But why have them off? I mean, other than you just don't want to see them. That would be the only reason. Not turn them off because you want to save power. You're not. So when you save done, then that saves it in there. Couldn't set the timer because your had disconnected. Yeah, okay, so it had timed out its connect. I had turned it on and off with this switch, and so it has to re-find it. Found it again, it's connected. One last feature in here is I can come in here and I can set a passcode so no one else can change your lights or lock them on you. Actually, they could change the code on you if they wanted to. And that just means you have to enter a code, but if you just say no and done, then it basically says, hey, this aren't locked. And like, yeah, I understand, they're not locked. Then when you click finish down here, it basically says you're done telling it what you're communicating with. If you have more than one of these Bluetooth controllers for these or more controllers, you want to make sure only one is on and the rest are off while you're doing the programming and setup. Okay, so when you first come into the app, it seems a bit confusing, but once you get used to it, it's not that bad. It doesn't. My phone is very good at swiping, but sometimes it ignores the swiping, so you got to be kind of extra gentle with it, because if it's in some weird mode, it doesn't want to. If it doesn't want to send a signal, it won't acknowledge your finger, and that's not my phone acting up. That's the app. So now I changed to Inferno and Pumpkin, and so you can see it doesn't want to swipe real easy. And this is sort of a mistletoe. This is sort of their default kind of Christmas color. It looks real good. It's nice. It's a little pastel-y for me, but okay. Now at the bottom here, you have plus and minus. Now this is a locked one that if you tried to minus it, it would say, hey, this is locked. And then you say understood, and it's protected. But you can hit the plus sign, and it'd say, okay, I'll add a new one. What do you want to call it? You're fixed. So we'll call this Todd Fun. Okay. And then we'll say done. Okay, so that's the name. We're set with that. And now we can add colors, and notice it's just sort of saying it doesn't have a clue what you want. Right now I'm not in edit mode. This is just its color, so we got to click edit up here. And it's like, okay, what would you like to do? Well, there's an info button here, so it's pretty clever. It gives you a little screenshot of where everything has to go and move and stuff like that. So we can add a color. So let's go with like a really good red. And we can add it. Let's see, they all changed red. So it's on the fly even. And now we're going to add a really deep blue. And then we're going to add a really deep green. And say select that. And so you can see you got kind of a mix, and it doesn't really know what you want to do with them yet. You can continue to add more. If you pick from this, they get kind of pastel-y, as opposed to these solid colors on the side. So even if I try to pick a good yellow, it just tends to be kind of a, not, it's not a real, they're not real solid. But you can try your best, I guess. I mean, you can move around and try and see you see the colors changing as you move your finger, and if you get one you like I want kind of maybe an orangey one down here, and you like it, so you can select it. And if you decide, well, I like the orange but I don't like the yellow, you just give it a flick and it's out. And if you don't like the order, because you can race these and chase these, so you can say, I really want to start with green, and then I want green, red, blue, and then yellow. And then you decide, well, I really don't even like yellow, because what good is yellow in that? So you can get rid of the yellow. And that looks pretty good. Now, those are those features. Now, you can either use these buttons down here, or you can just change like this. That does the same as these buttons. Let's go over to, well, immediately from color to effects. The first one is just solid. They're just on all the time. And you can change these and save them as your final pattern. This is sort of a stacking thing. If you were to see these on a wall, they would just start stacking across. This is multi-ball, so it's sort of just switching those three colors. If you had more colors, you'd be switching them, singularly. And there's tricolor. There's a single fade, where it's going to fade all the colors from one to another, and it's going to kind of phase them so the colors kind of frequency change between colors. Then rainbow fading, just sort of the same thing, but multiple colors. Multi-fading, now they're going to pick those three colors, and they don't look like your three colors because it's kind of phase changing those colors in and out, so they kind of get the different colors in between, and that kind of takes away from those solid, rich colors we picked, but that's the pattern, that's the effect you can use. A twinkle, now this is kind of my favorite, it just sort of twinkles through the pattern, that the number of colors you picked, and you can have quite a few, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, you can have up to 8 different colors. And this is a cross wave, so if you had these on a house, they'd just be cross waving back and forth, sort of like a Larson scan. Random, now this is kind of like twinkle, but you can end up with lots of the same colors together, which can be fine if that's what you're looking for on a house or a tree. And back to solid colors again. So one of the things we'll go to twinkle, because I kind of like that one, especially with these solid colors, and then we'll go on to the next feature, which is speed. And so right now it's set to a fairly slow, and the speed is kind of based on the effect. The speed is a little bit finicky. So some effects want a slow speed, whereas other effects don't look good unless it's a fast speed. So for twinkle, that's pretty good at slow. You can get it. You can bring it up a bit more, and it's a little more interesting. And a little bit more, and it can get a little bit too much. And if you max it out, well, then this one you can actually kind of max out. There's some if you try to max out, but even though we're at high speed, we can still go back and change the effect. And so you can see, like, changing the effect to this and still being on that super fast speed, because we're still on fast, it might not be what you want, So like I say, depending on the effect you have, you definitely want to go in and change your speed. Like this one might make you kind of sick, so you'd got to go, well, I really want the speed to be down a little bit more. And then it's kind of really a nice effect now that the speed and the effect are combined. There is a brightness. If you got this in your house and you think this is too bright, maybe near your television, you can have this particular one saved with a less brightness. In fact, you can bring the brightness down quite a bit. It does take it a second to turn them all down, because it doesn't change them all instantaneously. It's sort of as it changes the pattern it changes the brightness. So the brightness and the pattern kind of has to program through. So it doesn't instantaneously respond to brightness. But this may not look bright here, but in a dark room, you might find that plenty bright. Like I see, watch, it takes a little bit to bring the lights up, because until it talks to a bulb through the pattern you're using, it's not going to turn up its brightness either, because they go hand in hand. So we got the twinkle, the fast speed, the whole brightness. This is about what I want. And then if I don't want to accidentally change it, I can lock it by pressing the little lock button there. Like I say, the app is not always fully responsive. That is definitely the problem with the app. Now there's these. You can add another one if you wanted to create another scene and save it. This is create another one, and this is delete one. Now you can hit random. Now what this does is it keeps your color palette, and it just picks one of those effects and speeds. And if you turn it off and back on again, that's off, and now back on. Now it picks another one of one of those effects, and every time you turn it on and off, it just sort of picks one at random. So if you're just sort of bored and you know you like the color palette, you can just turn this random on and off, and you get something kind of random mix of that of every time. So it can be, you can kind of make it interesting. And then the song, this is odd, but you can either pick a song or play a song. Right now there's no song picked. So you click over here to pick a song, and it'll bring up your iPhones. Let's pick a song, I don't know, Back in Black. So I'll stop that. Now this is the odd part. I stop it, and that's the song is done, and those are the lights. That's what you get. So you're kind of, it doesn't change your scene. It's just that's where it left off. It doesn't know to go back to your scene. I don't know. But if you change and then go back, then it will restart your scene. So that's kind of a bug in the program. If I stop the song, it should immediately go back to my selected pattern. I shouldn't have to change scenes in order for it to go back to my scene. And so another one I played on earlier was this one. So it's not locked, so I'm gonna go ahead and delete it. It's just a duplicate of another one. So I'll say yes, delete it forever. So that's gone. This was another one I was playing with earlier. So we'll delete that one. Yes, forever. So this is the one we just built, and it's locked, so it's not likely that I'm going to mess it up. And if I wanted to edit this, I could unlock it, and then I could go into edit mode. But if it's locked and I just want to make a small change, and I don't want to recreate it, I don't want to give it a new name, I can say edit, and it'll say, hey, you can't, this is locked, would you like to copy it? And I say, yeah, I'll copy it. And so then it creates a copy of it, and you can rename it. And you could just call it, and it's going to be identical, so you can just make one little change. So we'll call it Todd Fun 2. And now we have Todd Fun and Todd Fun 2. And this is still unlocked, so I can edit it. So that's how the create your own color works here. So we'll add a color. We try and get a color we kind of like. I don't know if we want to get like sort of, let's say we really like that color. Then we come over here and we click this button down here to say we want to create a new color. And then it's like, okay, you have this saved color and this custom saved color, so you tap it and it goes into your saved color list. Now you can either swipe back and forth or click your little eyedropper here. Either one will take you back and forth. But if you come in here, you can say that's what you want, select it, and now that custom color comes over. And I'm not so sure it's going to be available in other apps. Let's see if I go back into this one and edit this one. Will I still have that custom color? Yeah, okay, so your custom colors go between scenes. So that's nice, you don't have to recreate them every time. I wish I could enter a number, because sometimes if you can enter a number, see, what I'm basically doing is I'm watching the lights, and I'm moving my finger around until I actually get the very color that I like. And then I'm going to say, yep, that's the color I want. Go into the, I'm not going to select it because then I don't get to save it. I can put it into, basically put it into my selected list. And then I can select it and hit select. And now it's in this selection here. And, well, I just changed Todd. I didn't want to change Todd Fun. I want to change Todd Fun 2. So let's kick it out of that one and go and lock that one and go back. And we can edit and add it into this one. And, boy, it gets kind of confusing. I want to change this color to the other blue that I'd saved. And I want to change it to this orange actually. Okay, there we go. That's what I wanted. That's Todd Fun 2. Okay. So one thing they said you could do is you could share these. Like I created a Todd Fun 2 and a Todd Fun, and I'd like to share those. There's no way to do that. So that's just not an option to share it with other people. It's my phone or no phone as far as I can tell. So you can change the name. You just have, even if it's locked, you can just, if you can tap it just right. It's not always responsive, but if you can tap it and it senses the tap, then you can change the name. Which, interesting enough, you can change it even when it's locked. You would think you'd have to unlock it. Now I know some people aren't a fan of LED. The colors just aren't as good as incandescent, but you know, for 160 milliamps and 12 lights, that's not going to go up by much. Let's hook up the next string and see if it does go up by it's probably go up by another 80 milliamps. Well, there we go, 24. I turned it on, it all worked instantly. It started playing the Todd Fun pattern. I did tell it to go to 24 lights, so I connected to it and said, hey, I want 24 lights, but it was controlling them without that. That's just so I can probably reprogram it. And as I finish connecting, and this is the pattern that's playing, the Todd Fun 3. It is using 240 milliamps now, so essentially 80 milliamps per 12. So yeah, it went up another 80 milliamps, but if you look, really, think about it. You're talking about 24 lights for 5.7 watts. 5.7 watts for this. There's no point in even turning it off. Even if we do turn it off, it doesn't save any power. Yeah, it stays at 5.7, 5.6, 5.7 watts. So don't even turn them off. Just leave them on. Let's go put them on the tree. Okay, we have about an 8-foot tree. And 24 bulbs make it just a little ways up, not going, I'm actually just zigzagging back and forth. So I'd need about 3 strands with 24 bulbs each is what I would need for about an 8-foot tree, I think. And they do look really good. This is a default called Mistletoe. I'm using my phone here. I will switch over, I'm just going to switch to a bunch of them to get to the one that I made. And that's a real nice color. It was the one we kind of were messing around with the garage. It has like 5 colors. And I just switched to one that has 4 colors. They're pretty close to the same because I like the pattern. And then this is sort of just a blue and green that my daughter made. And that would look really good going up and down the tree. Let me turn the lights off so you can see what it looks like. Hopefully it will focus well. And it's just really gorgeous. Lots of control. Here's the one we made in the garage. Here's one where I added a bit of blue, a bit of purple and orange in, and just so nice. And I control the pattern and the speed to exactly what I like, and brightness. Absolutely amazing. So that's the review of those Lumen lights. I like them a lot. Probably the best, most programmable. If you want a pattern or a style or speed, or you can make it. They're perfect. They couldn't have done better. As long as they keep the app running well, as long as they help you if the thing ever breaks because of a firmware update, as long as they're there for you, certainly they nailed the colors and the choices perfectly. The app isn't really responsive. It seems to be a little laggy once in a while, but it was still very usable. Not hardly any problems that I really would say this was an issue with these lights. The power out coming back on and you lose your timer, your on-off timer, that seemed a bit silly. So there was a few things that I mentioned. I wish they had like clips so that when you put it around a Christmas tree you could clip it to the branches, because it kind of was hard to put it on a tree without it kind of trying to tumble and fall off. But Christmas tree lights haven't come with clips in since I was very young. So I guess maybe there's something you can buy that clips them on and makes them stay. But they look really good on the tree. And the fact that you can dim them or brighten them up is just a bonus. I wouldn't even have thought they would have done that. So thumbs up to them. Great product. I'm gonna go out and buy 2 more 24 count strands because you can buy 12 count and 24 count. I don't need another controller because I'm just going to have one controller for all the lights on my tree. But I'm going to get 2 of the 24 counts, and that will put me up to the 3 sets of 24 that I need to wrap around an 8-foot tree. If you want some of the really, and these would look good outside too. You could put these on your house. They would work really good. So, yeah, I love them. So I did see the Star Wars movie. I'm going to close with my opinion of the Star Wars movie. So if you haven't seen it, then tune away now. And thanks for joining. Fair warning. My opinion, absolutely amazing. I couldn't believe it. Star Wars, Harrison Ford, the Millennium Falcon, Chewbacca, Princess Leia, everything you could possibly want. And the characters were well done. They weren't just cameos. I was really thinking they were going to be just some cameos. But no, they played the characters. The new villain, I was blown away. It was, I was really impressed with the new villain's performance. So you got to see it. It's great. It's the best thing since the 4, 5, and 6. 7 is right in lockstep with 4, 5, and 6. Goes right into 7. 1, 2, and 3 never happened. Enough said. Thanks for joining.